You want a left tackle for this football team? Well, you got a better chance of getting one today than you did yesterday. We're going to talk about Orlando Brown, what's going on at OTAs, and how they move forward today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. Special live edition. We held off until we had the information. We wanted to get it to you today. So what's going on with Orlando Brown? Going to cover that. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free on every platform. You can find us on YouTube. Like, sub, and hit the bell over there if you would, please. We're brought to you by Blue Nile today, and they make it every sparkle that you want. You can get it over there at BlueNile.com, and our listeners get $50 off of a $500 purchase right now. It's a podcast exclusive, and all you got to do is use the code Locked On at checkout. So we'll tell you more about them later. A lot going on here today. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics, as well as Performance Consulting, home of the Athletic Matrix, and everything in terms of analysis of the league. Welcome to a special episode.
Yeah, and this is a special episode. We are going to be covering OTAs. We're going to be covering Orlando Brown. As Ryan said, you can find him at rogueapc.com. You can find me, Chris Clark, at Chiefs Corner. I'm actually going to be talking a little bit about this Orlando Brown signing over there, getting a little bit more detail about it. Or not signing, but signing with the new agent.
Right.
Because I do think it's something that needs to be talked about.
Very much so.
I'm not sure how well this is going to work out for the team or him, to be quite honest.
Well, it's a step in the right direction. It might be a step down the plank, but it's a step.
Yeah, it's definitely a step. Going and signing. So Orlando Brown signed with an agent that has never represented anybody in the NFL before. And that is curious, is I guess the best way I can put it. Because to me, I wouldn't want to be putting my new contract in somebody's hands that's never done it in this league. But he thinks it's a good idea because he believes that this agent has no ties with anybody in the NFL, with any GMs or anybody in that space. So it's a good thing for him. I'm not so sure I see it that way, but what do you think?
Well, I mean, there's obviously two sides to it. I'll take the positive and try to walk through what I think Orlando's thinking. And that is, I think his experience in Baltimore has definitely shaded his decision-making in that his star quarterback out there represents himself in Lamar Jackson. I think that gives you a bit of a takeaway as to control, having your priorities and not having to compromise. And so I think he was trying to figure out if he could do that, but it had to come back to reality that, you know, in order to maximize your second contract, and let's be honest, there's no guarantees there's a third. There's an injury 3 years from now. This might be your last contract. So you need to maximize that. And I think having professional representation is really what that comes back to. But then it comes to like outside the box thing. And it's a double-edged sword. But if you're him, I think it kind of leans itself towards you have a personal connection with this particular agent. That's great. Friends and business rarely mix, but if this works, great. But it's also the fact that he hasn't negotiated with NFL GMs before. And I think that puts him outside the box enough to say that this is maybe more of a pure business transaction because there isn't familiarity. There's no axes to grind. There's no, you got me on the last superstar we had to re-sign and now I got to get you back or anything like that, right? So from that standpoint of why you're going that direction, I can see his thought process. I wouldn't have done it, but I can see it from here. What do you think of this?
I question it mainly because what did this guy have to promise him to get him to sign with him is one of my questions. And I mean, if he's promising he's going to get him paid as the best left tackle in football or the highest left tackle in football or highest offensive lineman in football, that's a concern that I have going into this contract. I know he wants to get paid and I expected that. That's okay. But I don't know that he should be paid more than Trent Williams was. So
he shouldn't. Let's be honest. He shouldn't.
Yeah. So it's going to be very curious to see how Kansas City goes about doing this. How they structure the contract is really going to be more important than the actual details of the contract. In fact, he may end up getting more money than Trent Williams. But the question is it guaranteed? And how do they play in those guarantees? That's really what's going to matter in this deal. Maybe they're going to end up doing a deal like Devontae Adams got in Las Vegas, where the last 2 or 3 years are really just fluff, or Tyreek Hill's contract in Miami, where it's just fluff. to get him up above the APY that Trent Williams got. Maybe they're looking at that. But if you do that, I'm fine with Kansas City doing that. But I'm curious to see how this guy goes about getting this contract done, because it is such a key for this team to get this done and get this done right. Try to keep the numbers down probably the first year to give yourself some more flexibility that you can carry over into the next year, and maybe be able to get some guys during the cuts time. Maybe you can trade for somebody and get somebody that's more of a high price veteran because you have more cap space. I mean, It all goes into how this is going to work for Kansas City.
Well, that's where some of my concerns are in the mechanical piece of this. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But before we go, you triggered something in me. It may be, if you take a look, like Orlando's dad was a pretty workman-like guy. He got things done. He got his contract. Now, Orlando's learned from that. His dad probably didn't get paid enough in retrospect for what his career was worth, right? So You want to maximize that. But it's also a fact that, are you really hung up on APY? Are you going to be the glamour guy and say that I have to have my magic fluff number beat Trent's, right? Or are you just going to take, hey, give me a less APY and give me more guaranteed? Or is it a common sense negotiation? And I hope for Orlando's sake and for the team's sake that's kind of the way that it lands, in that new negotiator, second contract for Orlando. So he hasn't been through the process before. Can you just get things done? Can you take the Mahomes model and leave some on the table?
Yeah, but my question with the new negotiator is, what does he want to set as his precedent for the NFL? Because you would imagine that Orlando Brown's not going to be his only client. So that also is going to play into how this is going to work out.
I think that's a great topic. We're going to get to that in a minute, because I think this contract determines whether he's his only client or not. But if I was going to, try to smooth over the waters, maybe give him something special, you want to make Brett Veach your pal, go to BlueNile.com and get him something splashy. You never know what it's going to do, right? Special moments like your first major client's contract could be something that maybe you want to give him something that looks like an engagement ring. I don't know. Maybe you're trying to make pals. You could be really good at that. All the prices that you want to find for your special piece, whether it's engagement ring, novelty gifts, anything like anniversary wise, anything super special that you want to pop, go get it at BlueNile.com. Our friends, whether you're popping a question engagement wise or you're celebrating some major milestone in your life, everything of modern convenience in the process is over at BlueNile.com. Build the engagement ring of her dreams and celebrate life's special moments. You can do it yourself and have a custom piece that no one will ever get a chance to make again. No matter what you're looking for, Blue Nile has it all, and their experts are on hand 24/7 for your special needs. Make your moment sparkle. I like that. Over at BlueNile.com with their jewelry, and our listeners from Locked On Chiefs get $50 off a purchase of $500 or more. That goes a long way. And it's a podcast exclusive for this engagement. And use the code Locked On. That's what you got to remember, is the Locked On code. And that's Locked On. Plus, every order comes in a couple of important things. They're insured. It ships free, and it arrives in packaging that isn't going to give it away. So you can actually get the core part of it done. So shop stress-free for your forever piece over BlueNile.com today. Now, special piece, this is the thing. This is the thing that I think is most critical to this situation, and that is, you've never done this before. Not only Orlando, but I cannot for the life of me been able to recall the man's name, but both you and your rep have never done this before. Brett Veach has gone through $500 million deal at this point. The advantage is not just like tipped in the GM's direction. It's all the way over there on the baseline. There's no room for error if you are this agent in Orlando. So I think for the organization, the process, the back and forth, how you submit proposals, how you deal with people at the table if you are face-to-face, which hopefully in 2022 they can get back to actual face-to-face negotiations. That all is tipped in the favor of the organization in Brett Veach and Brett Tillis, no matter what. There's no way around that. So are you willing to say, this is my first deal and I want to get it done in a way that allows me to make another deal, possibly with this team, if I can get another client? Best way for an agent to grow his client base is to get one guy paid decently and grow in his team. So I think there's some sacrifice to be made there. But if you get stubborn, I think it could backfire. Like, how do you think this goes down?
His name is Michael Portner.
See, this is why I can't do it.
Yeah, Portner. I wanted to make sure I got that right, of DSG Athletics or DSG Athletes. And I just looked at their Twitter page. It's been around for not even a year yet. So to me, this is him signing with a brand new agent overall. So I'm not sure how this is going to go down. It could go a couple of different ways. Brett Veach could take advantage of him by putting stuff in there that you wouldn't expect a normal agent to put in. I'm not saying that he would try to be malicious about it, but maybe if you get into negotiations and he wants the highest APY ever, okay, well, maybe you make some other stuff that's, subject to, guaranteed money or type of guarantee or whatever. I don't know how you really would do that, but there's lots of different ways that this could go. I'm just curious, and I understand, and I like what Orlando has said, that he realizes that this goes beyond just his football career and that there's going to be a lot more that goes along with it. I like that he's taking that approach to it. So I think that they're going to have an overall long-term goal, and it's not just going to be about this contract. There's going to be other things that he's going to be trying to do and whatnot. And I think that will be helpful. But having a rookie agent go and get a contract that is top 5 at your position is going to be hard, I think.
Yeah. And folks, we are live. Thank you. I see you guys in the chat. I actually can't answer back right this second, but we do see you, and thank you for being here. I got to tell you, if I'm coming from Brett Veach's point of view, or anybody in the front office, if a draft pick tells me that, he loses some notches in my book. I don't give a crap about your brand. You're here to play ball and you want to be the highest paid left tackle in the league. That's what you need to be focused on. I could care less what you're going to do in 4 years. That's not my job. If I'm Brett Veach, my job is to get the best deal that I can to put the best players on the field, period.
And I'm not saying that Veach should be taking into consideration what else he wants to do. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying I like that Orlando is looking at and coming at this from it's a bigger picture item for him. But obviously the biggest picture that he needs to be focused on and his agent needs to be focused on is the new contract. And that's, I'm sure, what they're going to be focused on over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it can get done. I just, for it to be one of those things where we're talking about it in March, oh, well, he needs to get an agent. Oh, don't worry, he'll get one by April. And then to come to this decision and make a decision to go with this guy, it makes me question how this is going to play out for the Chiefs and for Orlando. I would not be shocked at all if he's still on the franchise tag come July 16th.
Well, and if Mr. Portner or Orlando are watching, I will tell you this. My advice is get a deal done. Be a highly paid left tackle in this league. You don't have to be number one in order to further your outside of football aspirations later in life. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So it's good. Everybody starts from a negotiating standpoint of I'm going to be high and he's going to be low and we're going to have to come down. I'm just going to say keep that in mind because you're losing days. Yep. We're going to talk about what this means on the field and OTAs coming up in a little bit. But that's what I would say if I was in the room and he wanted advice.
Well, and the other part about it is realize where you are. You are with a team that has the ability to be in the Super Bowl year in and year out for the next 10 years. And that is going to do that much more for your career and that much more for your legacy that you could leave having that impact on the field. I'm not saying you have to take, pennies on the dollar. I'm just saying realize where you are and that there's a lot of value in playing where you are because you're always going to be in the limelight. And that
Super Bowl champion Orlando Brown sounds a whole lot better than just left tackle Orlando Brown.
You're going to have a lot of opportunities because you're in Kansas City and you're with Patrick Mahomes that you may not get other places where you're not competing for a Super Bowl every year.
Yeah. So what is this going to do? How does this timeline move along? He's not reporting to OTAs tomorrow, folks, just because you have an agent. You got to get something done or you got to decide to sign the tag or whatever you're going to do. We'll talk about on the field here this coming week here when we get back.
BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all of the latest sports developments, news, and odds, including this year's basketball championship matchup, the NHL Hockey Conference Finals, Major League Baseball, and of course all the latest fighting news from MMA and UFC to boxing. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Where the
And
game starts.
I actually would want to make a bet whether or not Orlando shows up to OTAs. I would bet that he would not. I really don't think he's going to show until he absolutely has to. And since he's not under any kind of contract, that would be my guess.
Well, and when you say it like that, I will say this: he should not. Does that mean that with rookie representation, with a brand new concept, does that change? I don't know. He shouldn't be there. You should start the negotiation. They probably already have as we record this. It is early on Saturday.
We got to hope.
We pushed back the Friday episode because we wanted to get a little bit more on this. We wanted to do something different and give you guys a live. So it's a little bit more emotional. I hope that they don't, because the risk of injury and all that, like if you're the player, if I put my other hat on, if I'm protecting the player, you can't do that. You either got to sign or get a deal done. Like, don't put the cart before the horse. But that should, on the reverse side, give you more impetus to negotiate in good faith, not be trying to make your mark as a first-time agent. That's what I think is the number one thing that can trip this up.
The argument that I would make is that he has the risk of injury just working out, and you hope he's working out and keeping in shape and doing that. So if he's at the facility, he's much more likely to have, a better situation happen for him than if he's away, when the team can say, well, you weren't even here. So it could go both ways. I'm betting that he's not going to show up at OTAs. I'm going to bet he's not at mandatory minicamp. Although if they make good progress, maybe he does show up for mandatory minicamp. But again, I go back to what I said before when we were talking about him not being at OTAs. I think that it's actually good for Kansas City in some ways because it gives reps to other guys, and Orlando knows what he's going to be doing. Although you would like to see the kind of shape he stayed in, and you don't know that right now.
That's the key. If he's working out consistently and he's in shape and he's dropped a little bit of weight, which was the goal over the offseason, then great, that's fine. He should walk back in when he's under contract, and if that's all true and he is in shape, he should walk right back into his starting position. Sharon Christian gets a few less reps. Kennard stays over on the right-hand side, and it's not experimentation anymore. I think all of that leads and is based upon what Orlando is doing now. So I'll keep my fingers crossed, because you're right. If not, then that becomes, wait, you want to get paid, but you haven't done the prep physically. You're not ready to go for the season as though you were under contract or you were going to sign the tag today.
Well,
that then becomes a problem for the team.
You're not training as a professional. I mean, you're still a professional even when you're not under any kind of contract. So, I mean, that's a year-round grind for these guys. You have to continue to stay in shape. You have to continue to get, faster, stronger, all of that. That's just part of the life. I'm not saying you can't take any time off. That's not at all what I'm saying. You can take weeks off at a time. Right. You absolutely need to. You need to recover. You need to get back in the right mental state and all of that. I'm not saying you can't take time off, but there's a difference between taking time off and not working out for a month, or taking time off and not doing any kind of studying in your playbook or any of that kind of stuff. So that's where, you're not going to know any of that until probably he's signed his deal, I would imagine, because I just don't think he's going to show up. But we do need to talk a little bit about OTAs that happened Thursday and Friday. It looked like the defense made a couple of plays, including a nice jumping interception from Justin Reed.
Yeah, it's like he knows what he's doing back there. What an idea. And I did notice, too, in the reaction, probably the biggest reaction was from Juan Thornhill. So I look at those little things about how the team is coming together. Yes, he made a nice play and jumped a route from Chad Henne, but it's more about, how is the team reacting? Are you coming together as a secondary or as a safety duo at the very least? So I took that as the bigger positive.
Yeah, no, and there was another play that showed Chad Henne throwing an absolute dime, and I couldn't tell who the receiver was, and it beat Justin Reed. So, I mean, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. This is all about trying to get better as a team and trying to understand your responsibilities and be in the right place at the right time. I'm okay with Chad Henne beating somebody from time to time. And also, I guess we should mention Mahomes did miss OTA practice on Thursday. But
it's like he had been busy or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And can I just tell you, can everybody give Josh Allen a little bit of support? Because Tom Brady absolutely bullied him that entire course. Like, I only watched part of it. I don't even know if I'm going to go back and watch the recording, but I was just like, wow, you don't have to take that. I don't care that he's the GOAT. He's still a dude on a golf course with you. You got a club. Let's go.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of it, but I did hear that Brady really let Allen have it from time to time. And that was, And obviously, I think it got to him a little bit. I mean, Brady and Rodgers ended up winning, and Mahomes, from what I read, played pretty well at times. Obviously, he started off a little slower, but put himself in a position to get an eagle, and then ended up getting a birdie in that on a hole. But it's all for fun. They were doing it having fun out on the golf course, and I don't mind him missing the day of OTAs. I mean, he knows what's going on. He can. He did all that work in the offseason. It's not a big deal to me at all.
Yeah. Sean Riley, interesting question here is we're going to wrap because we are out of time, but thoughts on Patrick pounding the Coors Light? I'm just going to say this. Clearly, in his life up to this time, he has done a great job investing in his athleticism. Playing golf that well is actually really impressive. In the years to come, Patrick should invest in actually developing taste for beverages. Boulevard Brewing is in town, man. You can get off the Coors. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. He seems to be a Coors Light guy through and through, and that's what he's been, since he came out. It seems like. So I don't have any problem with him, pounding beers. It's one of those things. So he's shown that he has the ability to stay in shape, and he obviously works his butt off. So I think he's going to be fine as long as as long as he continues doing the work, and I'm sure he's going to. I think he's fine.
And let's be honest, they also made a couple $100,000 for some decent charities. So good for them. Have a good time while you're doing it. But that's it for us.
That's a great miss the OTA. Sorry, that's all I wanted to
say. Absolutely. That's it for us today, you guys. This was fun to do a live episode for you. We may play with this going forward, but we appreciate your time and hanging out with it. If you're hearing this on audio, you can go back and watch it on the video as well. It was live on YouTube at the time. So thanks for your time. We'll be back next week as they get back into the third week of phase 3. And we're going to move forward and see what happens with this team. We'll have it all for you, including Matt Derrick next week. Thanks for listening to us today. We'll talk to you next time.